We're having a flashback to the killing of two lovers, and we're going to find a spot of land with part 2 of A Quiet Place. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect. And this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Welcome to Off Screen. It's cinema time, as always, Miss Perfect.
Yes, indeed, we can keep it cinematic and also on your couch, because we've got a bit of everything for you today, haven't
Well, that's it. We get to go back into cinemas, and about half of it you can watch at home now as well. I'm looking forward to a summer where people are going to have to actually choose between going to the cinema or paying for like premiere access on Disney Plus with like a Marvel movie and a Dwayne Johnson movie. It's going to be very strange.
It's going to be really strange, and I'm thinking, I'm so interested to see what the figures are, the numbers for how each of these kind of does and what that does to dictate the movie going public in the future. So it's quite an exciting time for movies.
It is. I noticed the Boss Baby trailer had at the end of it. It's going to be out on this day, but it's also going to be on Peacock on the same day as well. Like, this is going to be a fascinating time to live in now. But let's talk about one straight off the bat that you can only see in cinemas, I believe, this week, and that is the feature directorial debut, I believe, of actress Robin Wright. Ooh. It is called Land. It stars Robin Wright as well in the lead, and she is Edie. She is a woman who has gone to the sort of northwestern vistas of the United States. She's sort of isolated herself in the middle of nowhere. She's going off grid in order to find herself. She's had some profound change in her life, and she has decided to sack it all in. This sounds an awful lot like a certain recent Best Picture winner that I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't possibly think what it could possibly be.
If you don't want to talk about the past, have you thought about what you want your life to be now, moving forward?
I want to notice more. Notice everything around me more. Know more about here, be able to survive here, appreciate it.
Sounds like a goal. You are able to live here now.
I really struggle to say Robin Wright without saying Robin Wright Penn. I don't know if you have this problem. She's always Robin Wright Penn to me. I know she's years since she's divorced.
Because she was for so long, wasn't she? Was she for a very long time, wasn't she?
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'm going to start off the bat with this. Did you enjoy it?
No.
Oh.
that was the weird thing. It's one of those where it's a very classy movie. Like, don't get me wrong. It's, you know how there is a perception we have of Robin Wright as a person. Yeah. Like what she must be like as a person. I believe that she has very lovely wool sweaters tied, gracefully around her neck as she, lounges around and studies poetry and things during the day. We all have that very classy perception of Robin Wright. This is very much what happens if that person you envision that she is goes and directs Nomadland, effectively. And that's literally what it is. And it has this feel where she's quite clearly artistically interested enough that this is a passion project, but at the same time, it's so devoid of passion. It just feels so kind of creaky, just a bit too refined.
Okay, so obviously comparisons with Nomadland. Had this come out a year ago, or maybe next year, when Nomadland wasn't such a big thing, would you think differently about this?
No, because I think my opinions of the film individually are different enough and unique enough and unrelated to one another that they would survive relatively intact, devoid of one another, in a vacuum from one another. But like I say, there's a likable enough chemistry between Robin Wright and Demian Bichir, who's an always welcome presence. I always enjoy seeing Demian Bichir turn up in things, even that Annabelle sequel. Yeah, he did, and they have a likable enough energy, but it's very nicely shot, and Robin Wright quite clearly knows how to put together a film that quite nicely fits in with that perception I described before of Robin Wright. So yeah, if you want to see that person's version of Nomadland, or actually a bit more like what would happen if you fused together Eat, Pray, Love and the Reese Witherspoon one, Wild.
Right.
You smash those two
God,
together, a bit
what a
more
weird
like
combination.
that.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose maybe, do you feel like she's been a little bit too ambitious? It's her directorial debut, but yet she's also starring in it. And obviously, you know, we're going to be talking about Quiet Place 2 later. The same happened for John Krasinski with A Quiet Place, and he smashed it. But do we feel that in this instance, maybe it's a little bit too much too soon for her?
I actually feel it's too reserved. I feel it's too distant from the audience. I feel like you know, that perception, that persona, is not one that stands up naturally to let itself be exposed. To expose its inner workings and its inner thoughts and monologues. So this does feel a bit more standoffish. Okay. I think in terms of how it engages with the audience and how it defines character, etc. In fact, there is. It ties nicely into something I'm going to say about another film in the next segment when we talk about something with Clayne Crawford. But I would say well made, just not that engaging. It's a passionless passion project, but it's well made.
I feel just by your reaction to this is that you really wanted to give it the plaudits. You really wanted to kind of give it everything to say, yes, it was brilliant, and something was just stopping you.
Because it felt so classy. I felt like I should be watching it in my beach house, in my Rhode Island beach house with a nice glass of Chardonnay, whilst wearing a nice, knitted sweater tied neatly around my shoulders.
Yeah.
Sat on my window cubby. And it felt like a classy affair, and that's what it was. I think it endears itself to me. It feels like I should want to like it. Let's talk then about Flashback that's out this week as well, which stars Dylan O'Brien, and I'm fascinated. Yeah, I'm fascinated by Dylan because he's Teen Wolf, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he is.
He's TV's Teen Wolf. And he seems to me to be the sort of Ashton Kutcher to Logan Lerman's Topher Grace.
Yes.
If we're going to use a sort of nice comparison point. And so fittingly, now we have Dylan O'Brien sort of giving us his version of the butterfly effect.
Right.
Have you had the pleasure of this one? Did you catch
No,
this?
I haven't, but do you know what I have just learned is I always thought Dylan O'Brien was British, but he was born in New York.
Oh,
so,
okay. No, I never thought he was British. I just always assumed he was American.
No, maybe I've seen him in something that... Maybe it was in Maze Runner or something like that, where I was like, he's really convincing as a Brit. And I assumed because it was full of Brits, that was it. He was British, but fine. You learn a new thing every day. But yes, I can confirm he is Teen Wolf.
Fair enough. So he's a young man who is he's going through a difficult time in his life, starts recovering forgotten memories of an old flame from years previous, from 15 years in the past, from sort of high school era, played by Micah Monroe. And the mystery of what happened to this friend starts to seep into his life as he starts to experience things sort of out of order.
None of it matters. All they're doing is giving things labels, giving inaccurate names to things that are infinite and unknowable. This is your name. This is your house. This is your language. This is your job. Labeling every little thing, even the label maker. And then they look around at their world of utterly meaningless labels and say, this is our reality.
Dylan O'Brien, born in 1991, we've seen him as Teen Wolf, we've seen him doing this stuff. Is this his step into more mature adult content that is going to start pushing him from the teen star that he is to actually bona fide film star?
No, this is not that role. And I know the one you're hoping for. This is not that role. This is not going to be the one that makes him the household name. This is not going to be the one that makes him Tom Holland.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Because that's really the best case scenario for all the actors of this sort of demographic. You're Logan Lermans, as it were. You're Jake. Who's the? Is it Jake Johnston? Jake Johnson?
Jake Johnston's from New Girl.
No. The one who's in Jurassic. No, there's two in Jurassic World. And they have similar sounding names. The one who was Love Victor or whichever movie.
I don't know.
But anyway, the best case story for all
mean.
of them is they all want to be Tom Holland. Now, Tom Holland is, he's a heartthrob and he's a household name, but he's not especially that successful outside of his one brand. Dylan O'Brien, it would seem to be the same with Teen Wolf. Only he's just got nowhere near the crossover stature of Tom Holland. Anyway, this is mid-tier filmmaking. It's just very baseless and hollow. There's very little character to it, and I didn't come to care for it. This is going to feed into my larger issue with the first 3 films we discussed this week. And you just can't seem to get invested. It's a mystery without involvement. In which case, a mystery without involvement is ultimately just a series of conversations. And because of how baseline Dylan O'Brien is anyway, his sort of, his flat monotone sort of persona is forever looking kind of stoned, confused. His confused face, as you would say. Because of that, and how ASMR and all these, listening to him constantly, it's a challenge. The bets are on for whether or not you'll actually not snooze through this, to be really honest. It is no Butterfly Effect, put it that way.
Fine. Okay, he has not done what Ashton Kutcher kind of did. Well, do you know what? I'd say this week we're off to a little bit of a slow start with the movies, but hold tight. When we come back, we've got 2 more big movies that are out this week for you, and I'm pretty sure it's going to ramp up.
Welcome back to Off Screen, and still sticking with the new releases for the week. And this is one that you can actually watch at home as well. I don't know if we've ever actually mentioned this in all this time, but obviously with all Curzon movies, Curzon have their own at-home on-demand service. Yeah, they've had one long in advance of the pandemic. They've had this for years. It's part of their whole brand. But yeah, the Killing of Two Lovers, which is out this week, that is available on there as well. This stars Clayne Crawford. Do you remember the Lethal Weapon TV show?
Yeah. Was he Mel Gibson's?
Yeah, he was the guy who played Riggs, and then he was like so bad to work with. He was such a hellion to work with and a nightmare to deal with every day that they fired him and killed. They literally got rid of the main character on a Lethal Weapon show and replaced him with Sean William Scott. None of which happens here. An exercise in which he shows his own inner Brando, effectively.
Yes.
He is. Yeah, he's got that sort. He's going for that sort of a vibe. So, The Killing of Two Lovers, then, Becks, tell us, take it away. What's going on here?
Well, Clayne Crawford plays a character called David, who is a father and a husband who's going through a separation, an odd kind of separation with his wife. They've basically agreed that they possibly could see other people while they try and work out what's going on in their relationship.
It's all been left a bit unspoken, hasn't it?
Yeah, so they got together at high school, got married, had kids quite young. It's 20 years later, maybe 15, 20 years later, and the cracks are starting to show. So they're going through the separation. He's trying to, be the best dad that he can to his kids. And at the same time, he's trying to struggle. He's basically coming to terms with a new relationship that his wife is going through, but also to kind of control his anger at the same time.
Hey, Alex.
Yeah?
What do you call a pile of kittens?
What?
A meowton.
Come on, Dad. Meowton. That is terrible. What new joke?
New jokes? You guys tell me a joke.
The dog's always in a push-up position. Mitch Hedberg, search him up.
Mitch Hedberg, who's that?
Comedian that's actually good. Oh, the bus is here. Bye, Dad!
Bye, boys!
So I thought this was, firstly, a really, really great film. I thought it was really well done. It did not take me down the route that I expected it to, which there is a route that you probably expect it to take because of the title, The Killing of Two Lovers. That would be too linear for this. But it's a character-driven piece. It's basically a complete exploration of this family. And I have to say, whatever we know from the Lethal Weapon series with Clayne Crawford, I think he does a great Brando in this. I think he actually is really, really good, very brooding. And Sapida Moafi, I can't get her name wrong. I think she's really your every woman in this as well, who's just trying to keep everything together, trying to understand how best to play things, but gets it wrong a few times. I really like this film.
I think it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good, neat little, out there, outland kind of familial drama. And I think Clayne Crawford has absolutely, every right to be sort of dining out and chewing every moment that he can get in this sort of Brando-esque, mind that he's managed to find in it. Hats off to him, fair play. And he's very good in it. He's very solid. I'm assuming this might have been filmed before all that Lethal Weapon stuff, because I would have assumed everything with the Lethal Weapon would have made him toxic, and this would presumably be like a rehabilitation kind of project for his image. In which case, I think his performance outside of all that is very good and is to be admired. My issue, I think it is lacking a little bit of depth on the page. I think a lot of it is left quite abstract.
Whoa.
Pretty much for the sake of it.
Yeah.
If there's a sort of self-importance placed upon it to an extent that I think distanced me from it a little bit, but I couldn't deny at the same time it was an incredibly well put together film, gorgeous visuals. The cinematographer, whose name I did write down, Oscar Ignacio Jimenez, is the cinematographer on this, and it's a gorgeous, just jaw-dropping film at times. There's some great
beautiful
visuals
wide shots. There's a shot where he takes the so he's got one of those punch dummies, which he takes with him out to a field. And he gets a gun out because the way he's sort of dispelling his anger is to obviously take it out on this punch dummy and take it to the extent that he's kind of going, you don't know what he's going to do with the gun, but he practices on this punch dummy. And it's this gorgeous, stunning wide shot with these mountain sort of ranges in the background. Very well thought out. There's also a really nice sort of distant rocket sequence with, and I don't mean like Elon Musk rocket sequence, he's basically taking his kids to the park and they're playing with these like toy rockets and stuff. And again, the camera just sits there and watches it unfold, and it's just this continuous shot. There's some really... Do you know what? This is your perfect Curzon movie, is what I'd say this is.
Yes, yeah, actually, it's a very Curzon film, I will say.
Yeah.
I mean, as in, I think to the mainstream public, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think to a slightly more art house friendly crowd, it stands quite a good chance of being quite decently received, getting good word of mouth, I think, particularly for Clayne Crawford. But onto the biggie of this one.
Yes.
We've got to talk about this one, because I'm sure we've all seen this a while ago now. So it's A Quiet Place Part 2. A lot of film critics saw this before the pandemic, because they were just starting to screen it to early release critics and like Empire critics and things like that. It's now here, not post-COVID, but around the time that we're loosening restrictions in an attempt to get us back in cinemas. It is now it's like a minute after the events of literally picking up off the end of the previous movie with Emily Blunt and the kids in the basement and the dead alien. We are now back we're forced to abandon the world of the established world from A Quiet Place, which is 2018. 2017,
yeah, I think it is around that time.
And venture out further into the world looking for the next stage of survival. Along the way, they encounter a friend from before the fall, effectively, a family friend played by Cillian Murphy, who takes them into his makeshift shelter and aids I forget the name of the young daughter, our hearing-impaired young daughter figure of the family, as she sets out to basically strike back at the aliens that have, irreparably, savaged the human race.
I don't know why you came all the way up here.
There's nothing left.
Please. There are people out there worth saving.
You don't know, do you? I do. People that are left, they're not the kind of people worth saving.
Oh my goodness, I have to say, I loved this sequel. This was my first sit back in the cinema, watch a movie experience, and from the first movie that you have to see this in a cinema in like absolute silence.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
Unquestionably.
Yeah, someone eating popcorn needs to leave right now, you know? It's that kind of moment. The tension that is built in this is phenomenal. We're always a bit nervous about sequels. How well is it going to live up to the first one? How well is it going to continue on? It's stunning and sublime. So what I like about this is first thing you see out of this movie is them establishing day one of what happens when these aliens come to Earth. And we get that background, which we didn't get in the first movie. And then what I really thought was very clever was that this was not Emily Blunt's movie. This was the kids' movies, right? So this is really focused on, the brilliant actress whose name gets away from me right now, who is basically playing who is the deaf daughter in this. She's phenomenal in this. The son and his reaction of just trying to keep himself together throughout this is amazing. And then Emily Blunt kind of allows them to really sort of take the center stage of this piece, and as does Cillian Murphy. And I didn't know how they were going to take this to the next level of where we're going to go with this film. And actually, I think having John Krasinski out of the movie and focusing on the direction, you get some really strong cinematic, just general kind of overall plot point narratives and expert kind of ways that are really going to establish him as a fantastic director moving forward.
I can't disagree on that, actually. Krasinski is undeniably a great director, especially on these movies. He amply shows that he really can direct a sequence. And particularly with the opening of this, the big set piece that opens this film, which is like, as you say, it's the day one, it's your 0 hour moment. It's the moment of first contact with the monsters from the first film.
It's that juxtaposition from normality to complete stark contrast is amazing.
It runs the gamut from M. Night Shyamalan all the way to Amblin era Spielberg / J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
So it's a very impressive bit of filmmaking. It works quite well. To see that level of precision. I mean, we kind of knew after the first one, to be fair. I don't think this is as good as the first movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a perfectly fine sequel. But it is for me, does have the Jaws 2 effect, which is the first one is that cinematic is a cinematic experience equivalent to seeing Jaws the first time. Do you know what I mean? Mm. It is kind of the same as that. It's in the same way that Jaws or Jurassic Park has that effect. Quiet Place and the way it used sound, or the way Gravity uses 3D or something like that, and also sound. It is one of those things where you would want to see it on the biggest screen, the best atmosphere. This has got that going for it, but not quite as impressively as the first time around, I think. But a very solid sequel. It's kind of a case of, sure, more, but slightly less effective. It's, the bulb that burns twice as bright, burns half as long kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of that, but they've only turned it up about 20%, I would say.
I would just say on that, I understand, you're never going to get that surprise factor back. You're never going to get that kind of inquisitive feel as to what is causing the issue around them. But in terms of continuing that story, I think it's a phenomenal way to continue it.
That's it, isn't it? I think it can't quite make up its mind whether or not it wants to be about world building or if it wants to be about trying to recapture that sense of atmosphere from the first one, but in a different location.
Yeah.
And it never seems to quite commit to either. It seems too determined to balance that it never commits to a position on anything. And that I found a little bit irritating. Also, I thought Cillian Murphy's role was a bit thankless, to be honest. There were a lot of moments that did feel kind of, okay, we got pegged into a corner. We weren't expecting it to be successful enough that we'd have to do a sequel, but they offered us too much money, so we have to, and we really regret killing the dad off. There was a lot of that feeling in there for me, but it does work. It works.
I didn't feel that, but I see why you might have, but it didn't lose anything for me by not having John Krasinski in here, because there was enough signals back to his precedence that was set as a result of him being there. So look, overall, really good sequel. The big difference for me, just very quickly, is that when I first saw A Quiet Place, I didn't see that in the cinema. This is the first time I've seen this in the cinema. So this might be why I'm suddenly like, wow, that impact is there.
This is why I'm glad there's not a Gravity 2.
Right, yeah. Oh, the moment Gravity went onto the small screen, you can forget about it. Just bring it back periodically into the cinema and people will go and watch it again. Welcome back to Off Screen. So we've taken you on a wild ride through the cinema, and now we are keeping you back on the couch as we go through all of your top movies on the TV. So what have we got up first, Van? What's kicking off our Saturday night?
But this is the thing, because you picked this one, actually, because it's one that I hum and ha over, to be honest. So it's on ITV at 10:20 on Saturday night, so it's a good one to enjoy over the weekend. So, I mean, I won't deny it's a good romping action thriller. It's a Casino Royale. It's the 2005 reboot of the James Bond franchise, debut of the new Bond of the day, Daniel Craig, and it is an adaptation of Ian Fleming's original James Bond franchise launching novel, in which Bond is sent to take on an arms dealer by bankrupting him in the eponymous Casino Royale. In this case, said arms dealer is Le Chiffre, played by Mads Mikkelsen. I think it's the first big role I remember for Mads Mikkelsen. And into the mix, of course, comes Vesper Lind, played by the luscious Miss Ava Green.
By the cut of your suit, you went to Oxford or wherever. Naturally think human beings dress like that. But you wear it with such disdain. My guess is you didn't come from money, and your school friends never let you forget it. Which means you were at that school by the grace of someone else's charity, hence the chip on your shoulder. And since your first thought about me ran to orphan, that's what I'd say you are. Well, you are. I like this poker thing. And that makes perfect sense. Since MI6 looks for maladjusted young men, I give little thought to sacrificing others in order to protect Queen and country. You know, former SAS types with easy smiles and expensive watches. Rolex?
Amiga.
Beautiful.
God, I love Eva Green, and I love that line. I actually really love Casino Royale. It's interesting you're sort of not as in love with it. It's one of the, I suppose, highest ranking Bond movies out there. People absolutely love it. What is it that kind of takes it away for you?
I think for me, it's I think I have as a start of its own sort of separate franchise, it's fine. As a James Bond fan, I just felt like this is in no way connected to the Bond that I've sort of grown up watching, because the Bond movies and the Bond books had long since become very, very disconnected things. Like they did not necessarily reflect one another at all. The attitudes and things were very different. I mean, Ian Fleming does not do blaxploitation, but filmmakers do. Bond had always been very different on the screen to what it was on the page. And this attempt to contemporize the original Ian Fleming book, I thought just didn't quite work. I found it a bit lumbersome. I thought it lacked the refinement and the class. And to be honest, I found it dumber than I needed to find a Bond film.
Do you know what?
That was in many ways a big part of it for me. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's interesting because do you wish that they had a continuation of essentially like Pierce Brosnan in a new Bond? Because obviously Daniel Craig he's your gritty Bond. We see more of his emotional side in this than we have in any other Bonds.
I feel like Daniel Craig, if he hadn't been Bond, I would have wanted him to be Bond in the same way that I want Tom Hardy to be Bond. I don't actually want them to be Bond, but I think, do you know what? They'd be quite cool, though. I could see that working. It's in the same way that you kind of want to see a Damian Lewis Bond, even though the guy is in his 50s and obviously wouldn't be able to do it, in reasonably prime-looking shape for more than, say, 2 movies max. And certainly, I think he and Daniel Craig are about the same age. Regardless of the whole age thing, and you just think it would be interesting to see. So I don't inherently dislike Daniel Craig as Bond. I think he's an interesting choice. He was an interesting choice. I respect them for making an interesting choice, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with it. And look, this is you might have some people who completely agree with you on this, or you might be the lone wolf that sometimes
the action sequences are great, though. I mean, that's the thing. It's just the impracticality of, so I see. This is the Bond doing parkour. It dated this movie about as quickly as, Milhouse saying radical.
Right.
Or any line from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, or a lot of Wayne's World. It's so dated, or Clueless, in jokes. It shows you how ill-advised this was, but then again, that's not exactly new for the Bond series, so I suppose I'm undermining my own point, because let's be honest, Live and Let Die did not age well.
No, exactly. So let's move swiftly on from that because obviously Casino Royale, as we've mentioned, is on ITV at 10:20 p.m. on Saturday night. If you're wanting something a little bit lighter, a little bit less divisive, then we've got on Sunday, BBC One, 3:05 p.m. Well, this is a sequel. This is a sequel of a film so many people loved. This is a sequel that is leading through Ellen DeGeneres. It is, of course, Finding Dory.
Wait, no. I know where my parents are. They're in, what's it called? The place, Soap and Lotion?
Open Ocean.
Open Ocean!
Open Ocean? I know where that is. That's the exhibit located right next to... I don't care.
Easy.
If you're trying to get to the Open Ocean exhibit, just go through the pipes.
Through the pipes, great.
Through the pipes?
Yep, take 2 lefts, swim straight, and you'll hit it.
Oh, that's a lot of directions. Did you get that, Hank? All that?
Yeah.
Great. Let's go.
I'm not going with you. I won't fit. You have to go by yourself.
I can't because I'm not so good with directions.
Well, that's too bad. A deal's a deal. You wanted to find your parents? That's how you get to them. Now give me your tag.
But Hank, I can't go in the pipes alone. I'll forget where I'm going.
Not my problem. Tag.
I love Ed O'Neill as Hank the Squid.
Yeah.
There, I think he's a lot of fun. Also, I think this movie does also feature Ty Burrell as a man, as a manatee or something, or porpoise or something like that, and this sort of weird modern family.
It's Matt
There's
Damon
a weird modern
and
family.
Brad Pitt,
I think
yeah.
does Matt Damon appear? I know Idris
Brad Pitt,
Elba
yeah.
and Dominic West are in this as the seals, aren't they?
Yeah, there's something like, I think there's a pair of seahorses or something like that, and it's Brad Pitt and Matt Damon or something weird, and they have this like, Do you know what? I don't know how you feel about it as a sequel. I'm okay with this. It doesn't blow me away. This one.
It doesn't blow me away, but it's perfectly fun and enjoyable enough. Like I'll sit and watch it again. Like, put it this way, if I'm going to watch a Pixar movie on like Disney Plus, I'm going to put this on before I put a Cars sequel on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. God, don't even.
To be honest with you, I'd probably put this on ahead of Incredibles 2.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Like, yeah, look, I like it. If it's there, I'll watch it. But if it's not there, I'm not going to seek it out.
Exactly. And you know what? It is there at 3:05 on Sunday afternoon on BBC One. So, that kind of works out. If you happen to be there as well, Becks, you can revisit this Ellen DeGeneres aquatic sequel. Let's go to Monday night then at 9 p.m. if we so happen to be in the location as well. Because I don't know if this is actually streaming on anywhere at present.
No, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if this one is. On Film 4, 9 p.m. Monday night. It's a favourite of mine. I know you quite enjoy it as well, Becks. It is, of course, The Greatest Showman. How much do you love The Greatest Showman, Becks?
Do you know what? I loved it. I walked out of the first screening of this, obviously years ago now, and I remember seeing Mark Commode and a few other sort of journalists just kind of going, well, that was and I was like, oh, lighten up. I blooming loved it.
They all took it back. To be fair to them, a lot of them took it back because audiences it turned out, loved the movie. And a lot of them turned around, and Kermode in particular, turned around and said afterwards, like, okay, you know what, I went and saw it again and I've revised my opinion. Okay, I wasn't getting the audience element, which is fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Because, you kind of need a good, solid audience, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in a screening of 10 of us maybe. So it's not exactly the same. But The Greatest Showman, all singing, all dancing, Hugh Jackman back on the big screen stage. What's not to love?
I adore the soundtrack to this movie.
Yeah.
I'm a huge, I'm an unashamed Greatest Showman fan. I just absolutely love this movie. I think it is so much fun. Hugh Jackman was born to do this movie. That's it for me. I think it is as much fun as I can physically have with a musical. I think this is it for me. I think it is classy and cool and fun. And my favourite part of Cruella recently reminded me of The Greatest Showman, in particular, the way the camera moved in there. I love this so much, I'm not even annoyed that we're probably never going to get the unbelievably potentially fascinating actual straight-faced biopic of P.T. Barnum, which incidentally, if you've ever got a cast, you get Paul Giamatti and nobody else for, because of this. Like, that'll never happen now because this exists.
Yeah, but what I do hope is that they bring this, as they're doing with Moulin Rouge, into the theatre, because I would love to see a version of this.
This needs to be like a secret cinema thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, oh my God, is it not? I'm sure they're thinking about it. 100%, like, get my tickets for that. Were you a fan? The quick question I've got for you now is, were you a fan of Moulin Rouge?
Ish. Like, I kind of respected, I liked the energy of it, and I respected the visuals and things like that, but I maintain that Ewan McGregor is spectacularly awful in it. In that same way, though, that Daniel Radcliffe is awful in The Woman in Black, but the film is incredibly good, and it manages to survive the fact that he's bad in it.
Well, for someone who was totally in love with Ewan McGregor in Moulin Rouge, I completely disagree with you.
I'm sure my good lady would agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think this, this again follows suit. It's got the fan base. It's got, it's got the recognition, and it's got the songs. In fact, last night on the way back from the pub in the car, we were singing along to it to get us on the journey back home through the rain, which was fantastic. So The Greatest Showman, it's there for you to enjoy yet again. Both Van and myself are, it's only me actually who's going to go and see this in an open air cinema. You're going to go and see The Craft, which is very exciting. But I will be enjoying that this weekend in the open air cinema. But if you cannot go and do that, it's of course Film 4, 9 p.m. on Monday.
Welcome back for one last ride off screen. And as there's really nothing new coming to streaming or DVD in the next week, I think DVD and Blu-ray have got like the United States versus Billie Holiday. Have you seen that one, Becks?
Yes, I have.
I hadn't seen it. Is it actually good?
Yeah, I think unless you really want to sit down and watch it, it can be a bit of a slog. But watched it for the Oscars and stuff, and it was good. Andra Day was fantastic.
I think it was the one that I missed this year. There's always one that I miss, and it's that one. But anyway, let's carry on instead and fill the time with, we can talk with more length, I think, about the offerings on Freeview this week. And one that I know is, of course, near and dear to your heart. We're both 90s kids, you and I, Becks.
Yeah.
And I remember the year of our Lord 1998, it was but yesterday. I remember Airwalks were the in thing. Flannel shirts had started to largely come in shades of blue around then. Armageddon was in cinemas, The X-Files was at the top of its fame, and Halloween got rebooted. Do you remember this one?
Well, I do, because it was actually the time in which I bought my very first DVD player, and Halloween H2O, which is on Tuesday night on 5 Star at 11 p.m, was my first DVD to go in that DVD player.
Mine was Blade, which was also a 1998 film. So I think we're getting kind of comparable here. I had the first Blade movie, so you had H2O and I had Blade. Yes, this is, of course, this is a direct sequel to... In fact, no, it's not a direct sequel to the original. That was the 2018 version. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this is the 20th anniversary, hence the H2O, the 20th anniversary tie-in movie that follows on from this idea that Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode, sister of central figure and serial killer Michael Myers, the antagonist of these things, has faked her own death, has gone into hiding, and is now the principal of an elite private school in Northern California, at which her son, then emerging hunky teen star Josh Hartnett, is a student. And wouldn't you know it, he's only one of them rebellious teens.
You told me yourself you watched him burn.
I didn't exactly stay to see his ashes.
20 years. 20 years. Don't you think he would have shown up by now? What's he waiting for, huh? Okay, Mom, I can't live like this. I'm sorry.
What?
What does that mean, John?
If you want to stay handcuffed to your dead brother, that's fine, but you're not dragging me along. Not anymore.
I think I bought this DVD because I knew that Josh Hartnett was in it. I think that was my driving factor in this.
Was this the first movie to have the Josh Hartnett hairdo in it?
I think it might have been.
You know that one? He had it for like 3 movies, didn't he?
Is this before or after The Faculty? Like, I can't remember when this...
Oh, no, Faculty's... I'm sure Faculty is fall of 98, early 99. I think this comes for Halloween, 1998. So I think this is just before The Faculty, maybe.
I just remember, like, there's something that obviously made me go, ooh, Josh Hartnett, ooh, DVD. Yes,
this is fun. It's a fun slasher, this, though, because it's written by Kevin Williamson, who had, at that point was sort of the up-and-coming. He was kind of the cinematic answer to Joss Whedon to an extent. He was doing Dawson's Creek on TV, but, in terms of films, he was getting his attitude across in things like the Scream series and this, and I Know What You Did Last Summer as well, he took part on, and he was getting his name out there as the go-to horror slasher writer.
Yeah.
And I think he had a falling out where he was too busy to do Scream 3 and it all started to sort of unravel. But it's a fun slasher. Michelle Williams is in it, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. It's got LL Cool J, I think, is LL Cool J the guard in this one?
I think he is. Now it's all coming back to me. I'm like 1998.
This is the one. This is the one where LL Cool J is writing an erotic novel.
Is it?
Remember?
I don't remember.
I'm sure it is. Is this the one where he's in the guardhouse writing an erotic novel to his wife down the phone?
I probably wouldn't have noticed that he was writing an erotic novel, but yeah.
He does. No, he does. Because he verbally tells her the dialogue. He reads out what he's writing to his wife. It's a great LL Cool J role.
Let's bear in mind the fact that I was 14 when I was watching this, and I haven't seen it since, so I don't remember. But
evidently, young ladies don't love Cool James as much as ladies love Cool James. But anyway, on to a movie that does not star LL Cool J, but it does briefly feature Michael K. Williams from The Wire, funnily enough, as a weird demand of its star Edward Norton. On Wednesday the 9th, film 4, 11:25 p.m, a tight and tidy, I think it's only about 100-minute, rompy Marvel thriller, and this is actually part of the MCU. Everyone sort of seems to neglect it. It's The Incredible Hulk from 2008, starring Tim Roth, and as its antagonist, starring Edward Norton as its antagonist, Tim Roth. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry.
Yeah.
This is the fugitive part of the Incredible Hulk legend. Edward Norton is on the run. He's seeking a cure for his condition, and the US military sics upon him, the latest recipient of one of its attempts to duplicate the process that made Captain America, creating, as a result of mixing this combination with, military veteran Tim Roth, the Abomination, this monstrous, almost Greek godlike creature that only Edward Norton's Bruce Banner could possibly be equipped to handle.
We've never seen anything even close to your levels of exposure. That you survived an event like that, it's beyond my comprehension.
I don't want to control it. I want to get rid of it.
As far as I'm concerned, that man's whole body is property of the U.S. Army.
They want it as a weapon. If we let it go, we will never get it back.
What the hell was that?
There's only one thing that can fight that. It's in me.
What year was this out? Do you remember?
2008. So this only opened a month after Iron Man.
What was the Hulk movie and who starred as the Hulk before this one? Do you remember?
The one before this was 5 years previous in 2003, and it starred Eric Bana.
Yeah, so the Eric Bana one, right, is the first time that I went to the cinema to watch this, the Eric Bana one in the cinema, and it's the first time someone had thrown a shoe in the cinema. And I was like, who does that? Like, literally, who throws a shoe in the cinema? But yeah, that's...
Who throws a shoe? Honestly.
Honestly, who throws a shoe? But yeah, that is just what I was like, was it this one or was it the other one? So I'm pleased to say it wasn't this one. So you guys can enjoy it with the knowledge that I'm not going to be annoyed at this one.
This is the thing, I think Incredible Hulk is, because it's not mythology focused in any way, it is just a fun, slick thriller from Louis Leterrier.
Yeah.
I think it's got a lot going for it. I think it's the kind of thing, I actually would like to see more things like this from Marvel. I would like to see an A to B to C thriller from Marvel in the vein of something like this, because I appreciate, I mean, maybe now that we're going to be seeing like more per year, because I think we can get like 4 in the next year now. Now that we're starting to see, you know, an increase in the quantity of them, I'm hoping that means that they can let one slip that can just be fun and flighty thrillers. Occasionally we need, you know, an Ant-Man.
Yeah.
But, you know, occasionally, I mean, I know the Ant-Man series still does it, but I just would like to see more kind of like that. Some things that don't require all the world building. I really enjoy this, and I think Edward Norton's kind of underrated. There's a lot of humour to be ridden out of his chemistry with Liv Tyler in this, and a role for Tybor from Modern Family as well in this, as a character who, incidentally, if you know the comics, you know is destined to become a hero himself. But anyway, on to a Thursday night, the 10th, ITV4, 9 p.m. Well, I'll be quick and breezy on this one because we covered it before. Die Hard 2 is on, ladies and gentlemen. Do you rate Die Hard 2?
I kind of I do and I don't. I love the first one. I kind of just again it falls into like the sequel problems for me. Like I'm just a bit like it's the same again, same day, different, you know, different tower. It's kind of I kind of lose interest a little bit with it, but you know I love the first one, but. This one we've got obviously, and was it another team of terrorists hitting?
These are mercenaries. These are mercenaries from the U.S. military, sort of U.S. military trained. Effectively, they're soldiers gone rogue, and they are trying to free a South American dictator who's being transferred for extradition, I believe, led by the brilliant William Sadler. If you need a reminder of this is the cameo that Al gets from the first movie.
Fingerprints.
Got an unidentified stiff here.
We've circled the worlds in pen. In case the transmission's a little fuzzy. Listen, run it through state and federal, and if you can, run it through Interpol.
Will do. Well, what's this about?
Oh, just a feeling I have.
Ouch. When you get those feelings, insurance companies start to go bankrupt.
Listen, the fax number is...
It's on the top edge of the transmission.
It's on the top edge of the transmission
you just got.
On airport, huh? Listen, you're not in somebody's pool, are you?
Yeah, and I'm fresh out of chlorine.
So, I mean, yeah, look, I'm not going to say too much on this. We'll breeze straight, as Van said, we'll breeze straight through it. It's not one of my favourite Die Hard movies, but I mean, isn't there 5 to contend with now?
There are 5 Die Hard movies. Yes, I think McClane, which was going to be the sort of finale to the series, has been shut down by Disney. But this is my 3rd favourite. They literally go 1, 3, 2. Like I think 1 is the best, 3 second best, etc. It's great action, solidly made, still holds up. Anyway, to round off the week, let's go with a classic 90s for the adults thriller. Do you know how much did it blow your mind to see this on the list this week, Becks?
No. I was really pleased to see it because I just saw it this morning and I was like, this for me, from a nostalgic perspective, I watched this way too young.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Yes. And I totally remember seeing this on my TV in my parents' house and I was like, you know, like when you walk in and maybe they're watching it and then you kind of just sit down because you're like, what's going on? And,
what we got on? Yeah,
it was brilliant. You know, this is Rebecca De Mornay. You know, in this, is this the one with the shoe, the stiletto shoe?
Yes.
Amazing. Yes.
This is of course 1992's The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Oh, sorry,
which stars Annabella.
I got carried away. I thought we'd already told you what it was.
Well, it's actually, this is the thing. So, Rebecca De Mornay, who you've mentioned, is in fact the villain of it. But this is at the height of the psycho thriller trend. So this is when you're getting movies like Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct and movies like that. This is Rebecca De Mornay as the antagonist here. Annabella Sciorra is our heroine. She is the ordinary mum who is sexually assaulted by her GP, by her medical doctor. She reports him, which of course then leads to his suicide. And Rebecca De Mornay is his grieving, vengeful widow who sets herself up as Annabella Sciorra's nanny to her newborn baby as she sets about absolutely annihilating this family from the inside out. And here's a clip of Rebecca De Mornay being so twisted as to actually take on Mara Wilson from Mrs. Doubtfire, who's the daughter of the family, taking on her school bully.
Hi, Emma. Tell me, which one is he? Where? You know, with the blue and gray striped shirt? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Watch it, Trippy! Sidewalk! Ouch! My arm! My arm! Ow!
I got a message for you, Roth. Leave Emma alone. Look at me. If you don't, I'm gonna rip your head off.
Ow! Hey, get it, man! Let me go!
Don't forget it.
Oh, what a way to end the week. If you haven't seen this movie, and in fact, if you haven't seen it since 1992 when it came out, this is well worth you revisiting. You're right, the psycho thriller, this is of its heyday, and I'm really hoping that it's not dated. It doesn't feel too... I mean, obviously the clothes will look dated, but I hope it holds up.
There's something so classic about it, because this is the one with the greenhouse roof, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's all coming back to me now.
There's a really cool greenhouse that one of the characters, that Annabella Shaw, I think, spends a lot of time in. But I thought this was so cool. Do you remember who plays the doctor, Rebecca De Mornay's husband as well?
No, I can't remember in this.
It's John Delancey. It's Q from Star Trek.
Okay.
The omnipotent, mischievous sort of imp-like figure in Star Trek, Q. It's John Delancey, who of course
and Julianne Moore's in this as well.
And Julianne Moore as well. This is a really good movie. You absolutely got to watch this. So if you've not seen it, it's so good. If you have seen it, you know you need to rewatch it anyway. So absolutely get this scene. It's on 11:25 next Friday night on 5-Star. Make a note. Sky Plus. Set it to Sky Plus, TiVo, whatever. Get it seen. It is so good. And of course, next week we're going to talk about another quite interesting thriller. We're going to talk about The Father.
Yeah, which I know both you and I loved. You've even caught it a second time. This was obviously the Best Actor winner for Sir Anthony Hopkins at this year's Oscars. So if you haven't seen this yet,
Best Adapted screenplay.
I think it won that as well. It's a masterpiece and an absolute master class in acting. So, stay tuned for our review of that. I think you can probably tell that we're going to like it a little bit. And then what else have we got, Van?
We've got Nobody is finally out in the UK next week, which stars Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. And this is effectively meant to be like he is Mr. Nobody. He's just an average Joe and he gets mugged. And this is like tied to the guys who made like John Wick. So it's being played as a sort of almost real-world Kick-Ass style parody of John Wick. So I'm really looking forward to this. That's to come next week as well. It's just going to be a good time. We'll, of course, have more Freeview offerings to go through next week as well. I hope we can find any that are going to be as fun to talk about as The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, which I'm so desperate to revisit now.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Join us again each and every Friday as you normally do, but we'll be back again next Friday with all that and more. So here on Offscreen.